I'm Joe Lample. When I created Growing a Greener World, I had one goal: to tell stories of everyday people, innovators, entrepreneurs, forward-thinking leaders who are all, in ways both big and small, dedicated to organic gardening and farming, lightening our footprint, conserving vital resources, protecting natural habitats, making a tangible difference for us all. They're real, they're passionate, they're all around us. They're the game changers who are literally growing a greener world and inspiring the rest of us to do the same. Growing a greener world, it's more than a movement, it's our mission. Have you ever spent an afternoon in nature just watching insects, birds, and plants, enjoying their rhythms and relationships, observing how all parts of nature seem to work so perfectly together without any help from us? Well, the functionality of the natural world is the inspiration for permaculture, a set of principles and design techniques that challenge us to use nature as the inspiration to create sustainable systems for our own lives. The term permaculture was coined in the mid-70s by Australian agriculturalist Bill Mollison and David Holmgren. Many of the principles are at the root of what we talk about on our show all the time, creating healthy relationships with the earth. But permaculture takes it even a step further by providing tangible design and ecological methods for creating truly self-maintaining systems that allow sustainability to truly happen. And although based on natural systems that are as old as time, permaculture can still be a confusing concept. Permaculture design offers tangible solutions regardless of the size of the landscape. Dr. Will Hooker, professor of horticulture science at North Carolina State University, has created his home at 610 Kirby as an urban permaculture model.
Okay, what we're doing here at 610 Kirby Street is we've got a demonstration garden about permaculture. Permaculture, the word itself, is a contraction of two words, permanent and culture. Some people say it's a contraction of permanent and agriculture, but culture better describes the whole. In other words, if we're thinking about sustainable living, sustainable means it stays forever, and if we consider the opposite or the options, not good, permaculture is a design system for living on the land and managing the land in a sustainable fashion for the indefinite future. A lot of people wonder what the difference between permaculture and organic gardening or even sustainability is. Permaculture is a method for living sustainably, so they're not necessarily different there. Permaculture differs from organic gardening in that organic gardening focuses only on the gardening aspect of it. What I teach my students is that there are 5 physical systems in permaculture that we have to have a handle on when we're trying to become self-reliant, and self-reliance is the foundation of permaculture. The 5 systems are shelter, food, water, energy, and how we handle our material resources. Waste is a word that I'm trying desperately to get out of my vocabulary. There is no waste in nature. It's a cyclical system. So what we're trying to do is figure out the byproducts of one, i.e. the poop coming out of the chickens, as a resource base for another system, i.e. fertilizer for the garden. And so we're trying desperately here to reduce our waste to absolutely nothing.
Talking about creating no waste is a noble concept. Actually living it speaks volumes. So what better place to put that idea into practice than Will's own demonstration garden?
We bought the house in 1994, and I started teaching permaculture. I got certified in permaculture in 1994, and I started teaching it in 1997 at North Carolina State University. In 1999, when my son was 2 years old, I had a sabbatical study leave coming. My wife was staying home with my son, and we said, let's go look at what permaculture is doing in the whole world. So I took a year's leave, and with my son 19 months old, we took off to circumnavigate the globe. went west, California, Samoa, New Zealand, Australia, etc. Went around the world, looked at the permaculture endeavors in all these other countries. Permaculture started in Australia, so that was one of our stops. We had to go there. Basically, I had asked my department to put in an organic gardening permaculture display at our horticulture field lab, and they said, no, we're not going to do that. And I said, okay, I'll do it myself. And so we started, when we got back from our trip, which was 2000, we said, okay, let's put our money where our mouths are. And we started building a permaculture reality because I needed to show my students, I wanted to demonstrate how to do permaculture. So we just started building, and one of the things when you're doing permaculture, I saw a lot of permaculture examples around the world. I probably saw 155 of them were beautiful. And so as a landscape architect, as a designer, and as a permaculture designer, I wanted to put together a garden that is in fact aesthetically pleasing, because if it's not going to be beautiful, permaculture isn't going to spread. So that's really what we're trying to do in this garden. We're trying to say you can have permaculture and it can be beautiful as well. Some people might ask, do I need to hire a permaculture expert to start my garden, or can I do it on my own? I like to recommend that you start on your own. One of the ways to do that is to start with something simple. Put in a pot even, put in some herbs, put in something that you can cook with and have some success with. Once you get success growing, say, basil or chives or thyme, something simple like that, then move to the next step. So I recommend when you're starting your garden, do it yourself. Start and make the choices yourself, and put in something, respond to it, put in something else. And the best recommendation is make as many mistakes as you can, as early as you can, because the more mistakes you make, the more you learn.
One of the best ways to learn is through your own mistakes, and through years of study and constant application of his own trials and errors, Wayne Weissman, a permaculture activist and educator for over 30 years, has helped thousands learn about permaculture.
All right, so definition of permaculture. A comprehensive design system, design and planning system that focuses on a local environment and where we attempt to create positive relationships amongst all the elements in the system. What is a system? A system is everything that's in front of your face. We are part and parcel of all of these different systems that are revolving around us, inside of us. So in permaculture, I really feel like the key principle and key methodology is to find functional relationship. Of course, if we go back to the 3 ethics of permaculture, care of people, care of earth, and fair share, or benevolent distribution of yield, that's the basis and the essence for what we're working from and also working toward. And whenever we teach permaculture or whenever we consult in permaculture, if those 3 essential ethics are not part and parcel of what we're doing, then whatever it is that we choose to do and it doesn't fit that, we kick it out.
The Koinonia farm community has been innovative since its inception. It was started in 1942 as an interracial Christian farming community, and it was also the birthplace of Habitat for Humanity. In 2004, Koinonia Farm became innovative in another way, through its farming practices. After nearly 6 decades of conventional farming, it radically changed its methods to incorporate permaculture design into its agriculture model, which affected their farm practice, their construction, and their natural buildings, and all with the help of Wayne Weissman. Today, Koinonia shares their permaculture wisdom with their community through hands-on workshops and classes held on the farm. Talk about what farming was like here at Koinonia before 2004, because I know a lot of that's changed, and hit on some of the permaculture techniques in play, like here in the pecan orchard.
Before 2004, along with the pecans, it was mainly row cropping, When Koinonia sold off some of the land, they stopped the practice of row cropping here. Since then, in these orchards, they've been running cattle through here. Cattle drop manure. You're cycling nutrients through the soil here, which of course is beneficial to the pecan trees. And also they're stirring up the soil here and inspiring more plants to grow. Chickens come in after that. They pick through the manure. They'll eat insect larvae, and they'll also be moving around through the understory here and eating weed seeds. And then at times they'll bring pigs in to root. And remember that all these animals their droppings are being reincorporated back into the soil. This is a form of farming called silvopasture. It's running animals under trees and using the inherent biology of the farm to do the work for you.
Making use of all those natural resources you have here.
Most definitely, yeah.
You mentioned natural building as another aspect of permaculture in the big picture, and you've got some examples here on the property, and this is one of them. So what do we have here?
We ran a natural building workshop last year. This is a clay plaster. It's a mix of sand, straw, and clay. All of those materials were taken from this land. It's local. The materials, we don't have to ship any materials in. You eliminate the issue of using too many fossil fuels. It's very sturdy. It can take moisture, and it will dry itself out through a breathing action because of the natural base.
Easy to put together?
Easy to put together. It's applied onto a lathe of split bamboo that we nailed onto the inside, and you just basically put it on with your hands.
Kind of reminds me of that southwestern stucco look.
It's natural stucco. It's a clay stucco.
After decades of devoting his life to this all-encompassing and sometimes confusing philosophy, Wayne's had some time to get his arms around putting the concept and lifestyle into words.
One of the basic premises in permaculture is what's known as a plant guild. And a guild is a beneficial grouping of plants. So when we were talking about functional relationship before, it's putting these plants into functional relationship. So if I have a nitrogen fixer, it goes into the ground, it can eventually absorb nitrogen and release it to the root systems of the other plants. What Bill Mollison, the creator of permaculture, originally found in his travels, because he did travel, he was a field biologist, he was raised in an agricultural family. In his field biology work, when he traveled from indigenous culture to indigenous culture, he found that on less than a quarter of acre of land, a quarter of acre or less, that people were creating all of their needs for extended families on just a quarter acre. They did this by using vertical and horizontal space and inserting into this quarter of an acre animals, plants, and themselves, including shelter. They were able to take everything that came out of the shelter and reincorporate it into the system. And what he found is these were zero waste systems, that everything was reused and cycled back into the greater cycles. It makes no difference if you're on the 30th story of a building or whether you're in 500 acres or 1,000 acres of rural property. It's the same principles apply, and that's the genius of permaculture, that by following these principles that Bill Mollison laid out for us in a crystal clear manner, that by taking those principles and applying them to no matter what land base we work off of and designing what we need into the system based on these principles, we can have a high-yielding, healthy, and balanced environment to live in.
Inspired by patterns in nature, herb spirals are a great example of permaculture design because they accommodate herbs with different growing requirements to cohabitate in a relatively small space. Plus, they're easy to make and maintain as well. Now, with permaculture, it's important that you leave no waste and you utilize materials that are already available when you can. So when Will laid out this design, he utilized bricks from the chimney next door when they acquired the property. And once the design was in place, he backfilled it with some great soil, and then he started adding his plants. Now, there's a surprising amount of science that goes behind an herb spiral. For example, this top region here, Well, it's the hottest and the driest, and it gets the most sun. So it's the perfect place for Mediterranean herbs like rosemary and oregano and thyme. But this lowest region, it's a little bit cooler, a little bit damper, and a little shadier. But there's herbs that like that, such as chives and parsley. And in the middle layer, sort of the best of both worlds, but some herbs prefer that too, like hyssop and coriander. But once you subscribe to the design principles, how you make it look is entirely up to you, but it can be a nice addition to your landscape and a good project for your permaculture garden. So Will, here we are in the shadows of downtown Raleigh,
Right.
North Carolina,
Right.
on less than a third of an acre,
Right.
on a hot August day. In your vegetable garden, and I know agriculture plays heavily into permaculture.
That's correct.
So talk to me about some of the principles here.
Okay, one of the things we've done is we've laid out these beds that run with the contour so we capture as much water as we can that falls. The second thing we've got is we've got little indentations called keyholes
Okay.
that allow us to access everything.
So it's a access into the bed without cutting through the bed.
That's correct.
So you have more room for food production.
Absolutely,
Okay.
that's it. The other thing we have here is the entrance gates you see are made from locally cut branches from a cedar tree in our backyard. And so we're not bringing in materials.
Okay, so you mentioned structure and trying to keep things
Right.
local.
Right.
And structure is another one of the concepts
Right.
in permaculture.
Right.
So what are some of the examples of that besides the gate?
In our front yard to provide a fence so our son wouldn't run into the street, we put up a Belgian fence, and following the principles of permaculture, every element performs many functions, so we espaliate apples to that, so it produces apples as well as functioning as a fence. We also have the entrance gate made out of locally sourced white oak, and we've espaliated Asian persimmons to that. And on the deck, we have a window box very close to the interior of the house, so we can just go out, get our chives, get our thyme, get our basil, not even turn the heat down when we're cooking.
Less energy all the way around.
Less energy all the way around. Yes, that's the permaculture principle.
Well, I'm not surprised to find chickens on your property. But when it comes to permaculture, it's more than just about the eggs, right?
Correct. For instance, we have peach trees, a couple in here, and the peach tree, one of the pests is the peach tree borer, which overwinters in the ground. Well, when it comes up in the spring trying to get to the tree, the chickens take them out. They don't have a chance. Behind us, we have the grape arbor, and it's covered with vines because chickens need to be cooled. The grape tends to act as an attractor plant for the Japanese beetle. So in the morning when we come down to dump our kitchen scraps, we shake the arbor. Japanese beetle's defense mechanism drops. Chickens love it. It's Japanese beetle trap.
And it's no accident that you have the chicken run right underneath the grapes.
No, it's no accident. That's the secure thing. We also have ponds. The ponds we have gambusia or mosquito fish in, so they will take out any mosquito. They drop, lay their larvae, gone. We also have behind us here the compost pile for our kitchen scraps. The chickens come in, they will eat up what they want from our kitchen scraps and leave behind a nitrogen deposit. So we have more nitrogen.
So we've got a lot going on. We've got shelter, habitat, pest control, fertilization.
Shade.
A lot
on
going
and
on.
on.
A lot going on in a small space.
That's permaculture.
From large farms to small urban plots, permaculture asks us to look at nature as a guide to designing sustainable systems for our gardens, our landscapes, and even our lives. And if you'd like more information on permaculture, you can find that on our website under the show notes for this episode. And the address, it's the same as our name. It's growingagreenerworld.com, where you can also watch all of our past episodes, including this one right there. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm Joe Lample, and we'll see you back here next time for more Growing a Greener World.